Hello everyone. Today we are discussing a short essay question, Orbicularis Oculi. So this can be asked as a 5 marks. So let us see how you present this answer. So this Orbicularis Oculi muscle. So if this question is asked, you will be writing the question under the following headings: the origin, the insertion, then we have the nerve supply, the action and the applied aspect. So here the muscle you are seeing here, this muscle is the Orbicularis Oculi. It has three components: the orbital part, palpebral part and the lacrimal part. So all these three components will form this Orbicularis Oculi. Now what you are seeing here, this is the orbital part of the Orbicularis Oculi which surrounds the orbital margin. Now this part what you are seeing which surrounding the palpebral part or the eyelid, that is the palpebral part of the Orbicularis Oculi. Now the lacrimal part, it is deep underneath near the lacrimal bone. Now these are the three components of the Orbicularis Oculi muscle. Let us see the origin, insertion in the next slide. So here you can see that first we will discuss the orbital part of the Orbicularis Oculi muscles, origin. The ligament you are seeing here, that is known as medial palpebral ligament. Now this orbital part of the Orbicularis Oculi arises from medial palpebral ligament. It also takes its origin from the nasal part of the frontal bone. So this is the frontal bone, the nasal part of the frontal bone. This is the maxilla, frontal process of the maxilla. So these are the three parts where it takes its origin. After taking its origin, it makes a concentric circle and it gets inserted into the point of origin. So this is the orbital part of the Orbicularis Oculi muscle. Next we move on to the palpebral part. So you can see here the palpebral part. This muscle arises from the medial palpebral ligament. It arches over the eyelid and it is attached to lateral palpebral ligament or the lateral palpebral raphe. So this is the palpebral part of the Orbicularis Oculi muscle. So having discussed two components, the third one we are going to discuss is the lacrimal part. So you can see here that this is the lacrimal fossa. This is the lacrimal fossa. Now the lacrimal part of the Orbicularis Oculi muscle, this arises from the lacrimal crest here. This is known as posterior lacrimal crest of the lacrimal bone. So the lacrimal part of the Orbicularis Oculi muscle that arises from the posterior lacrimal crest from the lacrimal bone. Now after taking origin, this muscle, what it does is, I will show in the same diagram. After taking the origin from the lacrimal crest of the lacrimal bone, this muscle arches in front of the tarsus, and it gets inserted into the lateral palpebral raphe. So that is about the lacrimal part of the Orbicularis Oculi. So having discussed the origin and insertion of all the three components of Orbicularis Oculi muscle, we now move on to the action. This diagram was to show the tarsus. You can see here the eyelid being incised. This is the tarsal plate what you are seeing here. In both the eyelids you have the tarsal plate. So our lacrimal part of the Orbicularis Oculi muscle, it travels in front of this tarsus and it is attached to the lateral palpebral raphe. So now we see the action of all the three components. So we studied that in Orbicularis Oculi muscle there were three components: the orbital part, the palpebral part and the lacrimal part. Now the orbital part of the Orbicularis Oculi muscle, on contraction, it closes the eye very tightly, as in case of protecting the eyes from very bright sunlight or wind or the storm, we close our eyes very tight. So that is the function of the orbital part of the orbicularis oculi muscle. Now coming to the palpebral part of the orbicularis oculi muscle, when this muscle contracts, we close the eyes very gently as in case of sleeping or blinking. The next component of the orbicularis oculi muscle, which is the lacrimal part. When this muscle contracts, what happens is, we have the lacrimal sac here. So this is the lacrimal sac. On contraction, the lacrimal part of the orbicularis oculi muscle will dilate this lacrimal sac. Thereby, the lacrimal fluid secreted from the gland is sucked into the lacrimal sac. So that is the action of the lacrimal part of the orbicularis oculi muscle. Now we'll see the nerve supply. What nerve you're seeing here, that's the facial nerve, which is the seventh cranial nerve. In the face, it branches like this. So our orbicularis oculi muscle here, it is supplied by the temporal branch of facial nerve and also the zygomatic branch of the facial nerve. Temporal branch of the facial nerve supplies the orbicularis oculi from above, whereas the zygomatic branch of the facial nerve will supply the orbicularis oculi muscle from below. So that was about the nerve supply. So let's see the applied aspect of this orbicularis oculi muscle. If this muscle is paralyzed, what happens is the person or the patient will not be able to close the eyes. As you can see here, the eyes are closed. When the patient attempts to close the eyes, is unable to close the eyes. Now because of this, what happens is the cornea is exposed and thereby irritation and dryness of the cornea will occur. So this was about orbicularis oculi muscle. Thank you so much for watching this video.